everyone, welcome back to my class. This is Mehjabin Fatima, a teacher at Ahlebat High School and Junior College. Today in this session we are going to start 11th chapter of Social Studies from 7th standard. In other words, temples were not only places of worship but also the hub of economic, social and cultural life as well. So these Chola temples, they became the nuclei for the settlements which were growing around them, and they were also the centers of craft production where the craft production was taking place. And these temples, they were endowed with land rulers as well as by the others. The produce of this land will be used for maintaining the specialists who will work in the temple, and very often they were living near this temple, like priests, garland makers, cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, etc. And in other words, these temples are not only the places of worship but also the hub of economic, social and cultural life, etc. Let's see about the agriculture and irrigation. Many of the achievements of these Cholas were made possible through new developments in agriculture. Notice that the river Kaveri branches off into several small streams before emptying into the Bay of Bengal. These streams overflow frequently, depositing fertile soil on their banks. Water from the stream also provides the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice. So many are the achievements of these Cholas, and they were made possible only through with the help of development of the culture. And river Kaveri branches, they are off in several and small streams before emptying it to the Bay of Bengal, and these streams, they are overflowing frequently by depositing fertile soil on their banks, and water from these streams, it is providing the necessary moisture for the agriculture. Particularly, it is being used for the cultivation of rice. In many cases, it was necessary to water the crops artificially. A variety of methods were used for irrigation. In some areas, wells were dug. In other areas, huge tanks were constructed to collect rainwater. Remember that irrigation works require planning, organizing labor and resources, maintaining these works and deciding on how water is to be shared. Most of the new rulers as well as people living in villages took an active interest in these activities. So in the many cases, we can see that water is very much necessary to grow the crops artificially, and a variety of methods are being used for the irrigation purpose, whereas in some areas they were digging the bore wells, and in some areas they were building the huge tanks which were collecting the rainwater. As we know that irrigation requires a proper planning, so organizing labors and resources and maintaining these works and deciding how the water is to be shared among the field is so important. And most of the new rulers as well as the people who were living in the villages, they took an active interest in the following activities. Let's see about the administration of the empire. How did the administration organized? The king had a council of ministers to help him. He had a strong army and navy. The empire was divided into mandalams or provinces, further subdivided into Valanadus and Nadus. So how was this administration organized? So the kings and councils, they were having the ministers which were assisting them. They were also having the strong army and the navy, and the empire was divided into mandalams or provinces, and further it was subdivided into Valanadus and Nadus. Settlement of peasants known as Oru became prosperous with the spread of irrigated agriculture. Groups of such villagers formed larger units called Nadu. The village council and the Nadu performed several administrative functions including dispensing justice and collecting taxes. So in the settlement of these peasants or farmers, it was known as the Oru. They became so prosperous with the spread of irrigated agriculture, and groups of some villagers were formed in a larger units which is called as Nadu, and these several administrative functions including, and these Nadus were performing several administrative functions which were including dispensing justice and collecting taxes. We have seen that Brahmins often received grants or Brahmadeya. As a result, a large number of Brahmana settlements emerged in the Kaveri valley as in other parts of South India. So we have seen that the Brahmins, they were receiving land grants or Brahmadeya, and as a result, large number of Brahmana settlements emerged in the valley of Kaveri and other parts of the South India. Each Brahmadeya was looked after by an assembly or sabha of prominent Brahmana landlords. These assemblies worked very efficiently. The decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions, often on the stone walls of temples. Association of traders known as Nagarams also occasionally performed administrative functions in towns. So each Brahmana Deva, they were looked by the assembly or sabha of prominent Brahmana holders, and these assembly they were working efficiently, and their decisions were recorded in Tamil and inscriptions and often on the stone walls of the temples. And there are also inscriptions which are from Uttara Merur in Ingulpet district, Tamil Nadu provide details of the way in which the Sabha was organized. The Sabha had separate committees to look after navigation works, garden, temples, etc. Name of those eligible to be members of these committees were written on small tickets of palm leaf. These tickets were put into an earthenware pot from which a young boy was asked to take, and the tickets one by one for each committee. So, these Sabha, they had a separate committee to look after the irrigation works, garden works, temple works, etc. And name of those members who are edible of these committees, these names were written in a small tickets, and these small tickets of palm leaf, and these tickets were put into an earthenware pot where a small boy was asked to take out one by one ticket from each committee. So, this was all about our 11th chapter, that is New Kings and Kingdoms. I hope you understood this chapter very well. Let's continue with next chapter in next class.